Hello and welcome back to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. We made it, guys. It is the new year. First slate I will be breaking down this year, and it's a bit of an interesting one. Only 6 games, and my player pool right now looks very, very small. Maybe some more value opens up that widens that out a little bit. But before we get into it, come join us at LionStar, the easiest, cheapest, simplest way to do it right now. Hit one of these promo offers that you see on the bottom of the screen. We got Thrive, Sleeper, Underdog, Chalkboard. All of them will get you up to 1 month free of LionStar. And I gotta shout out Sleeper once again. They're still doing a $500 deposit match. That is dollar for dollar, up to $500. Great deal. Can't really get that anywhere else. Now, let's get into the slate itself. So, we got an interesting one. We got 6 games here. There's some mega chalk with Ish Smith. Sabonis looks fairly high owned. Chris Paul might be. Now let's get into position by position as we always do. And just make sure I got it all set up. All right, so highest owned point guard, we got Ish Smith. We're showing him 37% right now on FanDuel. I really think he's going to be more like 50, 60 plus percent owned. Terry Rozier looks doubtful. He did play last game, had 20 minutes. Last time he started, he played 26 minutes. Both times, though, didn't really do too much. Now, I like him, but I am going to definitely be under the field on him, I believe. But due to kind of lack of real solid volume, I still am getting to him a little bit. I think about 35-ish%. Maybe 30% of my lineups right now have him. I don't love him. Don't love the ceiling for him. But the floor is just so high for the price. He's hard to totally fade. Chris Paul is coming in next. I don't personally like him very much. However, he did put up 44 last time out. My issue is with all of their starters there, he just doesn't have the usage that he's used to. And with that, doesn't have a lot of scoring potential that we are used to seeing with Chris Paul. Now, I don't mind him. As you can see, when he has started, he's done decently, I understand why he is fairly chalky, because in his starts, he's been 5.5, 6x a lot of times. So I get it. As long as those minutes are here, he's playing those 34. I get why people are going there. But I think he is going to be probably one of my fades on the day. Not totally fades, but majority. Malik Monk is popping up a little bit. Like I said, not a ton of value coming up, so it makes sense a guy like Monk is popping. Now, one of the things I need to say here is when there's the huge 16-point blowouts, these are the games that hurts the guys coming off the bench the most. So I would expect Malik Monk, maybe his fantasy points per minute is higher than usual, but I would definitely be worried that his normal minutes, 25.6 over the last 20, is more down into that, 20 to 22 range than the 25 to 30 range. So that 25 to 30 range is usually when he's really pushing that 30 plus point area. I don't know if we see that today. So that's my worry with Monk. I am getting to some of him, but that's kind of the reason to consider fading him. But, if you're going with Ish Smith, you go with Monk. You can throw in another Sacramento or Charlotte person, do a little mini game stack. And that might be a way to kind of, 1, get away from some of the ownership, and 2, give you some little added upside if Charlotte's able to stay close. Tyrese Maxey's coming up a little bit and showing for me. This is another blowout situation. That's the interesting thing about this slate is we have Bulls versus Sixers -10, Spurs versus Memphis -11, Charlotte versus Kings minus 16.5. So half of the games have blowout situations, but they're also kind of the higher scoring games, minus Celtics versus Thunder, which that's a hard one to pick because there's so many good guys that a lot of usage gets spread out. All right, so back to Maxey here. Obviously, versus Charlotte's a great spot. He doesn't get, a huge bump down with Embiid back. Yes, his price is up a little bit, but he still has a very similar ceiling with Embiid. So I think it's kind of interesting here. My issue is it might be tough for the Bulls to stay into this game. In order for them to do it, they really need Drummond to show up, not get in foul trouble, and be able to slow down Embiid. SGA, I think he's probably my favorite pay up option at this point. Look, the guy has just been absolutely insane this season. Over his last 20 games, 1.64 fantasy points per minute. A little bump up in his spot for the Celtics. Point guard is one of the only spots for the Celtics that is allowing, a little bit of upside there. So I think SGA is a little bit of interest there. Now let's get over to DK. Highest owned, Chris Paul, Ish Smith, and SGA. Ish is a little bit more expensive on DK, so I don't like him quite as much on DK, but he's probably priced a little more correctly there. With that, ownership will be down a little bit, whereas Chris Paul is pretty low on DK, and I think that him being higher owned makes total sense. SGA, we talked about, I like. Not really feeling Curry this year. He's had very few big blow-up games, and they haven't really been when Chris Paul starts with him. All right, now let's get into the matchup tool. Point guard, we got De'Aaron Fox, Ja Morant, Chris Paul, Jalen Suggs, all 20th or above matchups. So De'Aaron Fox, I love this spot for him. One thing, though, the game has to stay a little close. So that is my worry. I think that with Fox, he comes on in the second half, game after game after game. That is where he puts most of his fantasy points up. So for him to really come through, this game needs to stay close. So some Charlotte guy who is, Charlotte's another team that is down. They have a lot of injuries, smaller rotation. There's got to be a guy or two on Charlotte that comes through if you want Fox, I think. So only way I'm playing Fox is if I'm also taking a Hornets guy. I think that's the way really to unlock that Fox upside. Ja Morant, look, Spurs don't like playing defense, and Ja's in a good spot, so it makes sense to want to go there. Chris Paul, I've said my thoughts, not a big fan of him today. So shooting guard, on to FanDuel again, we got Desmond Bane, Malachi Branham, Malik Monk, Nick Smith, Bryce McGowan, Herb Jones. All right, so with Marcus Smart and Ja Morant, I am off the Desmond Bane train for a little while. I think he needs to get down to lower 8Ks probably until I'm really on him. Yeah, I might have a couple, but I'm not really loving the spot. I've bet some unders on him already. I'm just not going there. Malik Brownham, okay, he's 4.4K, so I get if you want to go there. He is a little bit of value, but he's just been bad. 0.7 fantasy points per minute, not playing that many minutes. I just don't see a lot of upside here. Malik Monk we covered. I think Nick Smith is kind of interesting coming off the bench on a depleted Hornets team. He also could luck into some extra minutes in a blowout, so I don't hate going that route. And he's going a little bit lower owned, gets you access to that game at a cheap price, as well as Bryce McGowan. Look, he's going to start again. Been playing mid-20s minutes. He is a decent shooter, though. So if he gets hot, Hornets are able to stay in this game a little bit, then maybe he plays a little bit more and it unlocks some of those Kings upsides because the starters are playing more minutes. And then Herb Jones. I think Herb Jones' prices came down enough. His minutes have kind of been all over there a little bit lately, but most of the time he's still in that 28 to 30 range. And in this matchup, I think he could get back up to 5, 6, 7x. So I don't mind going to some Herb Jones at lower ownership. After all, this is a slate where we're going to really have to find some value on it outside of just the value that's super chalky, because this slate is hard to get a little bit different. As I said, right now, I have a super small player pool when creating like 75 lineups. Normally, I am around, say, 60 to 80, 85 players, and I have like 53 right now. So it looks like a very interesting slate where I'm super heavy in a couple spots, and Herb Jones is one of the ones I'm getting a little different with. Into small forward, we got shooting guard on DraftKings. Bane, Chris Duarte, and Steph Curry. All right, so Duarte, he started last game, only played 26 minutes. The thing I have to say about him starting is last 20 starts, 0.68 fantasy points per minute, 0.55 over the last 5. So as a starter, he just hasn't really been producing, except for this one game where he had his kind of blow-up game. But that game was minus a lot of other starters. With having all of the starters, healthy and playing, and Herder coming off the bench. 1, I don't see a lot of minutes for him. 2, the usage is just way, way down. Now, he is only 4K, and he's a starter. He's going to play 24, 28 minutes, something like that. I just don't love the upside once again if he is going to be high owned, which he looks like right now. Kennard, healthy again, played 20 minutes last time out. I can't expect him to play too much more than that. I don't really love the spot for him either. Marcus Smart, just kind of meh. Don't mind getting there, just don't really like it. And shooting guard matchup tool, we got Marcus Smart, we got Anthony Black, we got Brandon Ingram, and Oubre. I do like Oubre, and I do believe we are going to talk about him a little bit once it comes into small forwards. All right. Small forward here. So highest owned, we got Bane, Branham, Bridges, and Brandon Miller. So let's start with Bridges, as it's the one I haven't talked about. Look, he has a real high ceiling. Without Rozier, his usage goes up. He's really going to have to play well for them to stay in this game, I believe. It's kind of up to him and Brandon Miller in my eyes. So I don't mind going Bridges. I don't mind going Brandon Miller as some of the options to take for Hornets outside of the obvious kind of value plays in McGowan's or Ish. Herb Jones we talked about. DeMar DeRozan, another spot where it's a potential blowout situation. DeMar is going to have to play well if the Bulls keep in this game. There's 2 guys that probably need to come up for the Bulls. DeRozan, Drummond. Kobe White could help out alleviating some of the work DeRozan has to do, but I think DeMar is just kind of the most likely guy to come through to keep the game close. And he's still only 8.5K, 55 point ceiling. Don't mind going there when he's regularly, right around 40 points. And he's not getting ownership, which is kind of surprising to me. Franz Wagner, another guy, low ownership that I like a lot. He's been crushing lately, playing a lot of minutes lately too, which is nice. 36, 38, 39 minutes all around. And with that, we're seeing some mid-50s. We're seeing a lot of 40s. I love both his upside and, his floor is decent. His median projection is all right. I'm liking Franz for a, low ownership play. Keegan Murray is another one that I'm kind of interested in. Now, Keegan's a interesting one because his floor is pretty low. 13, 16, 14. So he's had 3 games that straight up will make you not cash. But he also has a 66. I mean, this game was insane, though, where he hit 12 threes. But it just shows that he has a legit, 40, mid-40s ceiling and can even, get higher if he's really feeling it. So I don't mind going there. I think mid-30s is absolutely in play in this situation. But once again, it comes with that one hesitation that this is a 16-point game. While it means the Kings likely score points very easily in the first half, how do minutes get adjusted when we get into the third, into the fourth is the worry. If this game stays close, I think it's very interesting for the Kings players. But if it doesn't, then they likely don't help you too much. And last, we got Cam Johnson here. Cam Johnson in a close game. It is unfortunately the second to lowest game total of the night. But look, he's playing minutes. He's in a good spot versus the Pelicans, who allow, a lot of shots up, and he's a shooter, so I do not mind going there. Now, small forward on DraftKings, we got Bane, Duarte, and Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins, what are we going to do with him? At least he's playing, 26, 28 minutes off the bench. His usage goes up a little bit off the bench, so fantasy points per minute to look a little nicer. I understand if you want to get there at 4,900. He's playing enough minutes to get into the 30s. So I get it. Just don't love the play. And small forward matchups. We got Bane, Herb Jones, Cam Johnson, Harrison Barnes, DeMar DeRozan. So pretty much all guys we talked about in nice spots. Now, on to power forward. Sorry, just double checking. We talked just small forward. All right, power forward. We got Domantas Sabonis, Trace Jackson Davis, Paulo Banchero as the three high-owned guys. Look, I love Domantas. I think Domantas Sabonis is in an absolute great spot. He's been playing very well. Just the issue of the Kings, once again, versus the Hornets. This game needs to stay close for him to really see a ceiling. So that is the issue. Kings players, I think I just have to play with a Charlotte Hornets guy this game, because that's really the only way that the Kings guys or multiple Kings guys really see a ceiling type play. Trace Jackson Davis, I'm bummed to see him being high owned, but it makes total sense. He's been playing very, very well lately into the starter spot, played 29 minutes. Coach Kerr did come out and say that this is probably the starting lineup they're going to see for a little while, so they're going to see what Jackson has as a starter, and I think it makes all the sense in the world, and I do not mind whatsoever getting some Trace Jackson Davis today. Franz Wagner, Keegan, we talked about Cam Johnson, and getting over to power forward on DK. Wiggins, DeRozan, Kenrick, Williams. Look, Williams is just popping up because he's had a couple DFS-worthy games at his price point lately, but coming off the bench, 15, 18, 20 minutes max. He's going to have to do a lot of work to really make that work. And power forward, Zion Williamson, Kuminga, and Dorian Finney-Smith and Miles Bridges are the top matchups. Like Bridges, Zion, I think, is in a little bit of a tougher matchup than this shows. However, I mean, the data doesn't lie. They've been allowing 1.15 fantasy per minute to the power forward over the last 10 games. Now, with that, they have played Randall, Gordon, Bogdan, Antetokounmpo, Kuzma, Jalen Williams. So they played some decent power forwards, which could be accounting for that a bit there. Kuminga, I do think is interesting. I just think his price is a little bit high, and Bridges, I definitely like a little bit. On to the center position, high-ohm guys, Sabonis, Trace Jackson Davis, Nick Richards. Only guy that I'm really going to talk about that's not one of those high-owned guys, Andre Drummond. Look, he's had 2 huge ceiling games as a starter, 1 dud game when he was high owned. And I did say that we should probably fade him this game, by the way. And look, he's in a matchup. He hasn't played for, a few nights now, in a matchup versus Embiid where it does carry some significant foul risk, where Drummond could get into foul trouble in playlist minutes. But if Drummond plays 34 plus minutes, I think he's going to produce in this spot. They need him to produce to stay into this game. They need him on the defensive side, need him getting rebounds, taking the ball away from the 76ers. So I think it's an interesting spot to go Drummond at low ownership. Now, 9.2K takes a lot of his ceiling out of it. He pretty much has to have a 20 rebound game, but we know he is capable. And then the higher owned guys, Sabonis we talked about, Trace we talked about, like them both, and then Nick Richards is there. Hornets are just beat up big time, and it's another option to use a Hornet player if you want to use some of those Kings guys. The Kings guys are really the ones that have the biggest upside on this slate. It just, the only way to unlock it is Hornets staying into the game. Now, on to DK center spot. We got Trace Jackson Davis. We got Joel Embiid and Kenrick Williams. Look, Joel is in an absolute smash spot. Looks like he's coming back. 11K is not too expensive to play, so I would definitely have interest on Draftkings where he's a little bit cheaper, and the upside is just giant. I like the spot for him quite a bit. I do have a couple worries. He's just coming off injury. They have had, a decent amount of rest now. He hasn't played since the 22nd, so he's had almost 2 weeks of rest, or 10 days of rest or so. I think he'll probably play full out, but it is also a blowout situation, so maybe he gets pulled early in the fourth after not playing for 10 days, something like that. But Joel's absolutely interesting, especially if that game is able to stay a little close. And over to the matchup tool, Sabonis, Wembanyama, Drummond, Embiid, Holmgren at the top. I do think Holmgren is a little bit interesting at 8.4K. He definitely has the ceiling to produce. And then Wemby, man, I just hate that they're only playing him 24 minutes right now. He's apparently supposed to be playing that for another week or two. So if that is the case, once again, hands off, and Sabonis is in just a smash spot. So all in all, that will do it for us today. It is a very interesting night. The ownership is probably going to be somewhat slammed in on only a couple guys, so figure out your spots to try and get different. Good luck. Hopefully somebody wins some money on here, and let's do it, guys. Adios. See you tomorrow.